the Hughes law that the parents of a little boy who passed away after a terrible time at the age of 6 are keen to introduce, very generously focusing upon some good coming from the tragedy of their own experience. Ceri Davis and his wife Francis were in the House of Commons yesterday, where their MP, Chris Hinchliffe, the newly elected Labour MP for North East Hertfordshire, was, I think for the first time, Ceri, getting the issue raised on the floor of the House of Commons. So you were optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, Chris has been fully supportive of what we're trying to achieve. He's taken over from Sir Oliver Hield from our constituency, and Sir Oliver obviously put this forward to Parliament, and Rishi Sunak was very supportive in last December. And obviously we've pushed hard, and we went to Downing Street with Chris and handed a petition, a letter into Keir Starmer, and we met the Minister, Sir Stephen Timms, the day before, and yet to have any optimistic breakthrough with what we're asking for.
Or any action. We'll have a listen to what happened on the floor of the House of Commons, including Keir Starmer's response. But I have to warn you, Ceri, that we've got one eye on Avignon as well. So you found yourself caught up in the eye of a breaking news storm. For people who don't know, Hughes law is designed to provide a form of furlough for parents who find themselves in the situation that you and Francis found yourselves in when Hugh was ill.
Yeah, so the struggle is that if you have a child that's diagnosed with a chronic illness such as cancer, there is no support from day one. You have to wait 90 days to apply for DLA, and the government will push the parents towards universal credit. But, you know, we're not talking about someone who's lost their job or been made redundant. We're talking about someone who today was walking down the street normally with their child, and tomorrow they've been told their child has cancer. So it's nothing that universal could support.
No, it's a relationship between income and outgoings, and when fate intervenes to decimate your income in this way, your outgoings don't change.
No.
So you can end up having your misery compounded by financial distress as well as the emotional distress that you're going through, and the physical distress that your loved one is going through as well.
And you need to be there for your child ultimately.
Of course you do.
Without having to worry about going to work, and that's what we're asking for, is that day one recognition, and that's what they're failing to see at the moment, unfortunately.
I think Hugh survived just 10 months after his diagnosis, which would have qualified you for next to nothing, really.
We know that current wait times for DLA is nearly 6 to 9 months at the moment, and I wouldn't have been eligible for universal credit, so we wouldn't have had any support from the government.
Well, let's have a listen to what happened yesterday when Chris Hinchliffe raised your case and Hughes' law in the House of Commons.
Chris Hinchliffe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and may I associate myself with the Prime Minister's remarks. In 2021, Ceri and Francis Davis, who live in my constituency of North East Hertfordshire and are in the gallery here today, tragically lost their son Hugh at the age of just 6 to a rare form of cancer. Now they are courageously campaigning to ensure that every parent who must leave work to look after a sick child in hospital gets the financial support that they need from day one. Will the Prime Minister meet with them and me to discuss implementing Hughes' law and giving their son a legacy that improves the lives of families at the most difficult time imaginable?
Mr. Speaker, can I pay tribute to Ceri and Francis? It is a heartbreaking case, and commend them for their campaign on behalf of other families. I know the Minister for Social Security and Disability met the family yesterday, but no parent should endure losing their child to cancer, particularly at such a young age. We are investing £1.5 billion for new surgical hubs and scanners, £70 million for new radiotherapy machines, and we will set out our next steps on the Children and Young People Cancer Task Force shortly.
Well, Kemi Badenoch gives him a hard time for not answering the questions that are put to him. I think you're entitled to as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, but going into it, Francis and I were in the gallery above him, and I just thought that's the sort of sad answer that we would have. I didn't think he'd go into so much policy about what's not available or what there is available.
You just wanted him to say, of course, I'll meet them.
I just wanted him to recognise that no parent should be put in this position. And yes, we'll sit down and have a conversation about how we can create something going forward that can help these parents in this situation.
Do we have any idea how many parents are in this?
4,000 parents or 4,000 children a year are told they have to spend 2 months or more in hospital for a sick or chronic illness.
So it's not going to be an absolutely prohibitive amount of money that we're talking about.
What we asked for we put a submission in for the budget just recently, and we asked for $6 million to provide a grant for 2 months of £750 a month for parents for 2 months, so they can be by the bedside of their child. Obviously, we heard nothing from it. The last budget, obviously, quite big in some ways. So we're hoping that if that's not the case, then we can bring the DLA forward from having a 3-month window to day one. And this is a difficulty. Is this grey area?
Day one of the diagnosis. Because you've been told that there's months ahead of you, but the DLA doesn't kick in until 2 or 3 of them have passed.
And, if you bring a child into the world, maternity pay is day one, non-means tested.
It is, yes.
And having a sick child is 3 months, but you still need to care for a child nonetheless on day one. But there is a 3-month discrepancy at the moment, which we're fighting for.
And what was the meeting the previous day?
We had a meeting with the Minister for Social Security and Disability, Sir Stephen Timms.
Yes.
And we put to him the case with Francis and Chris Hinchliffe that there needs to be support from day one. And unfortunately, they see the 3-month window remaining, and that parents should be utilising the universal credit.
So he knocked you back then, Stephen Timms, effectively?
Effectively, without engagement into a alternative mechanism to put into place for parents, the universal credit and the DLA 3-month delay would remain. And almost no further conversations were happening.
And that's what he's alluding to then, really. So what he's not saying on the floor of the House of Commons is you got knocked back yesterday. Why have you come back for more?
Yes, in effect, yes. Yeah.
Put words in anybody's mouth. We've met a couple of times now. I'm going to go out on a limb and say you won't be giving up.
There's definitely no chance that I'm giving up. And I think my new MP has suggested as well that you'll grind them down somehow.
Yes.
Because I don't think that parents... there'll be 5 parents today told their child has cancer. They won't have any money available day one. And there'll be children all through Christmas that have been told they're ill. You could be walking down the street today Christmas shopping, and tomorrow, they won't be seeing Father Christmas at home. They'll be seeing him in a hospital bed, sadly, and they need financial support.
And we talked about this before, but for people who haven't followed the story or who didn't listen last time you were here, why are you doing this? Why? Because, not to be crass about it, but it won't bring Hugh back, will it?
No. When Hugh passed away, you need a purpose to keep going. I had his younger brother, Rafe, who was just 3. My wife fell pregnant quite quickly after Hugh passed away. That gave us another purpose to keep going. But also, you find yourself, when you've struggled and you've been through a troubled time and tragic time, you realise you get something from helping others. And we found that helping others was a purpose for us.
Right.
We set up the charity It's Never You. And
just say that again. It's never you, as in until this happens, it never crosses
your mind. You always think
it's
someone else. It's never
absolutely
you.
Absolutely, you do.
Which I think is quite a really apt name, and that's the first thing that Francis said to me. You always think it's always someone else. It's never you. But channeling your grief into purpose, and I think the former Minister Jo Churchill used it in her speech when she put Hugh's report through in the first stage. It's time to turn pain into purpose and create something that will. Keep a legacy for him. And it's one of those things you try to do as much as you can to keep your son's name alive.
Of course.
But if we can help others and so he didn't die in vain, then we can do something for the future.
And we've contacted the DWP for a response to what you've told us, but we haven't heard back from them yet. Although having spoken to you now, there's not a great deal that they could say except a signalling a change of approach to this whole issue that would satisfy you.
What we're asking for is a change to what's now, but we're asking if they can't change what's now, let's create something new that covers what's available.
Yes.
Then it encompasses what we're asking for, and to be fair, it will cost less than what they want to change it or not change from.
What are you going to do next then, or what does the grinding them down consist of?
Well, our MP Chris is fully supportive of us. He's emailed or sent a letter to Keir Starmer last night asking for a follow-up, asking to an answer to the question,
yes,
and for a meeting. Obviously, it'd be lovely.
Was he surprised? Was he disappointed? I don't
it's very hard to say. I
don't.
You expect an answer. The parents that we speak to on social media and our parents that we support were very gutted at the fact that he didn't answer the question directly.
Yeah.
And I thought, considering Francis and I were in the gallery, and Francis was obviously very upset and in tears at the time. He's mentioning Hugh and tragic, which is normal.
Yes.
You'd expect to say, look, it's very tragic what's happened, but let's meet with the parents and let's see how we can work forward. Because don't forget, only 4 months ago, Keir Starmer defined a working class person as someone who has a little bit of money, but can't help if it goes wrong.
This is exactly right, actually. That's a really good point that you make very powerfully. We'll keep an eye on this for you. We may put a call into Downing Street as well. And our love to Francis. Ceri, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon. I sometimes say to people when they come into the studio, don't hesitate to ask. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I'm glad you do. All right. I know sometimes.
Sorry for hassling.
No, don't be. If I don't get back to you immediately, it's only because I'm busy. All right?
Okay.
And now we cross live to Avignon, where Giselle Pellicoat is addressing the media.
It's with a lot of emotion